Welcome, everyone. I'm Bill Anderson. I'm coming live from the Costa del Sol. Our temperatures have dropped a little bit, but the humidity's gone up to compensate for it. So we're kind of walking around as if we're in a sort of self-contained Turkish bath all the time. Just listening on the news there, it says take less showers and don't use so much water. That would be a fine thing down here. I'm really pleased to welcome my guests for today, who are locals here in Mijas on the Costa del Sol, Yvonne Gray and Andy Thomson. Welcome, Yvonne and Andy.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Bill. Thanks for asking us.
Oh, this is going to be fun. Now, I have to give a warning here, guys. You see, for people that I don't know very well, I'm usually very polite, okay? But because I know you, I might give you a hard time. Is that okay?
We're prepared for that.
We're ready.
Okay, I think already we're hearing a couple of Scottish accents coming through here. Where are you from, guys?
I'm from Dundee originally. Yvonne's a Sassenach originally, aren't you?
I am indeed, yes, from Newcastle.
So you're a Geordie.
I am.
Come on, give us a good bit of Geordie accent there, Yvonne.
Well, that's now, I'll struggle. However, pet, get gannon with what you're doing.
But we re-educated her back in Scotland, so it's not quite so bad now.
Yeah, so did you complete your education in Scotland or did that come afterwards?
Let me think. Afterwards, I think, Bill.
Right, okay. So, that's where you're from, and the accents are coming through. Although I have to say, I'll give you 7.5 out of 10 for your Geordie accent, Yvonne.
It's not very good.
What did you both do in the UK career wise?
For myself, I started off in the career service. Then I
Right,
went into other things, and then eventually went into management consultancy with my own business for
right.
about 20 years. That was my
Okay,
background.
yeah.
I served my apprenticeship in DC Thomson's of Dandy, Beano, Tottenham Hotspur and all these
All
comics
right, yeah, yeah.
ilk. And I moved about quite a bit in Scotland. And then I set my own company up when I was in my early 30s.
And that was a printing company, was it, Andy?
It was retrographics and printing, and then we added graphic design to it as well.
Right, okay. So that's what you were doing. And I know, Yvonne, you did some consultancy work for the Scottish government, didn't you?
Oh yes, yes, quite a bit, and I work for Scottish Enterprise quite a lot,
Yeah.
um, as well as the government. So yes, quite good.
And a conversation that we had previously, you did work on the Y2K.
I did indeed, Bill, terrifying the life out of all the business people around the
Was
whole
that
of Fife.
your official remit? Terrify them.
Um, I don't know if it was, but that's probably what I did do to them all.
So the Y2K was the year 2000, where we thought that all our computers were going to sort of burst into flames at the first bell, yeah,
Correct, instantaneous combustion.
and it never happened.
No,
She
So,
got the nickname at these things, the Angel of Death, when she was telling us all about what could happen.
all right, okay. And Andy, you reached some dizzy heights as well, did you not? With the Institute of Directors. That sounds a very posh
Yes, a bit too
body.
posh for me. Obviously, nobody wanted the chair, so they put me in it. But I was the Institute of Directors for the Fife area of Scotland. They had
Right,
6 different areas, and for some unknown reason, they appointed me the chair of the Fife branch.
right. So was that the peak of your career?
Not really, no. I think nobody wants these jobs.
I
I
know.
think they called me a joiner. I kept joining things. So
Yeah,
it was a lovely story when I was the chair. It culminated in a big convention at Gleneagles Hotel every year,
right,
and you're invited there with partners. But anyway, the main speaker after lunch was to be Princess Anne,
right.
flying up from London. So we were taken into this anteroom, all the chairs of the different areas of Scotland, and we were told by the head guy from London, now you've got to say ma'am or your highness, and Andy, we know what like your humour is. Be very careful how you speak to them. So they put me in the line of the first lot. But we were there waiting ages. We had the lunch. Half an hour later, she appears, and we found out that there'd been a problem at Heathrow with the fog. So she came in. The guys from the SAS, the Salvation Army singers that were there to protect her, came in the door, and she came to our area first, and we were introduced. And I said, "Yes, I'm from your other kingdom of Fife." She said, "I'm so sorry." She said, "We were fog bound at Heathrow. That's why we were half an hour late, and we had to get a motorbike escort from Edinburgh." I said, "I can see you riding a motorbike by the way you have your hair, because you have that hair that lovely way." You know, which she laughed, which was good for me. And the lady in waiting says, "That's so great." She was so fed up with hearing all the normal rubbish that's.
No, it wasn't great for you. It was lucky for you. You might have been
Correct.
you might have been
Correct.
done for treason, Andy.
Never heard of her seen again.
Okay, so I know this, but how long have you guys been together?
What long is it now?
Oh, see, he never comes up with the right answer, Bill. Okay.
I'm frightened it might cost me money for some anniversary or something.
Yeah, but that Yvonne is precisely why you left him to answer it and not you.
Correct. Yeah, we've known each other for over 20 years, Bill, but
Right.
we've been together for 11, 12.
Something like that,
Yeah.
yeah.
Right. Okay.
So,
And when did you leave the sunny shores of Scotland for this windy and rainy climate down here in the south of Spain?
it will be 10 years in October that we've been here.
Okay. So tell us, why Spain first of all, and then we'll talk about the Costa del Sol. What was it about Spain that you said, oh, we're fed up with this, we're going to move to Spain?
I'll give you a short version of a long story because it is quite a long story. I've lived in different countries for a lot of my life, and I like the heat, etc. Andy is not a heat lover, and he also doesn't like flying. So I had to come up with a plan to say, how am I going to get him to go somewhere where we get some heat and he doesn't have to do a long haul flight? Hence Spain.
Right, yeah.
Add on to that, he hasn't lived anywhere else apart from Scotland. So it was a case of, right, we'll go for 6 weeks and see
Right.
how you like it.
Okay.
Yeah. So we got a lovely deal with a hotel in Benalmadena,
Right.
just chosen out the blue. It's for 6 weeks, and we moved about quite a bit. And I think it's just one of these fatal things that happen. I'd seen an advert for the Jersey Boys, which I
Right.
quite liked. I'd seen the show,
Uh-huh.
and they were on at that great night spot in La Cala called Legends.
All right, yes.
About world famous now. Some fantastic live music there. Anyway, we booked to go there, and it was in the evening. It was dark, and we couldn't really see La Cala, but it seemed a quieter place compared to Fingarola and Benalmádena, which are nice enough places, but they're bigger. But the first impression, just at night, it seemed a smaller, more peaceful type place. So anyway, the next day we got on the bus and we came down and saw it in daylight, walked about and thought, this is a really nice, just something about it suited us. The size, the ambience, the amount of lovely restaurants there were, the space, and it wasn't big, it was more like a village compared to Fingarola, and that suited us. So that's when we decided this is where we would base ourselves.
Yeah, La Cala is a very interesting little place, isn't it? Because when you look at the sort of wider La Cala, it's huge. When you take in all the urbanizations, it is huge. But because of how La Cala itself is placed, with the motorway running almost like a barrier, a border around it, it still has this village feel to it, doesn't it?
Yes, yeah, it's got a village mentality. Even the people in it, it's so small that you're always bumping into somebody you know or acquaintances, and it's a really good atmosphere that the place has.
Yeah.
Because I think it has that closeness, that close knit community.
Sure.
Very, very strong community. Some of the people do fantastic charitable work.
Yeah.
You've got the Lions. You could probably be at a charity event to raise money for whatever good charity is about once every 2 or 3 weeks here. People volunteer for a
Yeah.
lot of things. The ones that really admire, well, they do a lot for needy people, but the ones that I admire are the volunteers that give all their time, most of their spare time, and thanks to the 2 kennels that we have, over
Yeah.
300 dogs
Yeah.
one of the kennels looks after, and mostly by volunteers. Amazing that they give their time for that free.
Yeah, I think this has been a big thing that, and it's not just Brits, because one of the big dog refuges just across from where I live is a Belgian lady that set
Sure.
it up. But one of the things that I think the international residents have brought is firstly that the whole charitable event. And listen, guys, I counted that in one month, all the charity events I was invited to. They invite me to these things, but I usually have to pay. And if we'd gone to all of them, it would have cost us about €800 for that
Yeah.
month, you know. So we have to sort of pick very carefully, you know. But yeah,
But
it's
yeah,
a very
yeah.
live community, isn't it?
We like to go to these charitable events because they are quite good. There's something a bit of entertainment. Yes, they're there to raise money, which is a good thing. But when you think about it, the majority of the expats in this area, most of them are retired,
Yeah.
so they have the time to do the voluntary work and help where they can. And we
Hmm.
all like to do our bit. I like to go to these charity events. The money's going to the right places. It's
Sure.
the right people that are running them.
Yeah.
So I'm all for it. Really good.
So, what you were then saying to us, Andy, being a Scotsman, you ended up in Benalmadena because you got a cheap hotel for 6 weeks.
Exactly. And I was looking for the ones with the inside toilets because they were going to be a bit more expensive. We
Oh,
got one.
right. So it was a cheap deal, but toilet was a hole in the backyard, was it?
Correct, correct. Bring your own courier, your Dundee courier.
I will hasten to add, Bill, it was quite a posh hotel.
It
It was
was.
actually pleasant.
Okay, okay. The thing is, Andy tells these stories with such a straight face that you usually have to wait to the end to see whether he's serious or not, you know?
Correct. It's always in the eyes, Bill. When
Yeah.
you look him in the eyes, you know he's telling a story.
Now, listen, guys, well, sometimes we don't see each other for a few weeks, and other times we bump into each other every day. It's usually in some kind of bar or cafe, and it usually involves a glass or maybe a bottle of wine is involved there somewhere, yeah? Is,
Sounds
is,
good.
is that part of the I don't know, the pleasure of living down here?
For me, Bill, it's actually part of the pleasure is actually bumping into people that you know,
Right,
very impromptu often, and it
sure,
turns into a great afternoon, evening, whatever. And you can always get really good food
yeah,
and really good wine and good company. So
yeah,
it's a pleasure to live here.
yeah.
It really is.
And the wine's not bad, Andy, is it?
Correct, correct. The no, it you can walk 30 yards, you come across a watering hole. That's what's good about it. But one of the most pleasant things that keep me here are, Scotland now is about 8 to 9 months of winter
Oh,
type
yeah,
weather. But here you walk down the road, we could sit outside about 11 months of the year, either eating or drinking. It
sure,
makes a lot of difference, really.
yeah.
It's a lot healthier apart from your liver having to be thrown over your shoulder too often.
Yeah, I think a few of us. Well, actually, I'll own up to it. I probably drink more here than I ever drank in the UK, and price has got something to do with it.
Correct.
But also lifestyle is got something to do with it as well, isn't it? That wine is almost seen as food here. It's not seen as going drinking.
No, and it is pleasant because you can get decent wine at a decent price, Bill,
Yeah,
and it's part of the socialising.
In Scotland, we call it happy water.
happy water. Not the water of life, the Uskawa, no? Yeah, but it's true, and actually, in 3 or 4 weeks, we're actually going to be coming from one of your watering holes from Conrisa again, who are organising another one of the famous wine tastings on the Saturday. So we're going to do a. When I say a dry run, that's probably not completely correct because it will not be dry.
They're very good. We've been at them. They're very good, these lunches.
Yeah. Um, Sorry, I'm just getting a message from Dave there, and we're going to take a break in about 10 minutes, and he's going to play some Frankie Valli for us. Just
So I like her. I do like her.
okay, so one of the reasons is plenty of watering holes. I mean, even in a good restaurant, I mean, just to let people know, what would we pay for a decent glass of wine? I'm not talking about the top range of the wines on their menu, but for a decent glass of wine, what would we pay down here?
If let's say, for example, an Albarino, which is an extremely pleasant wine, it varies between, I would say, 350 and 450
Right.
euros for
Yeah.
a decent and a proper glass of wine, not a tiny measure like in the UK.
Yeah. Where they put it into a thimble and pour it into the glass. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
By the time you get it to your lips, it's
correct.
evaporated. Yeah.
I think it's just a case of count to 10 when the pour drinks here.
Well, it is really, isn't it? Yeah, we notice that particularly when they're poured in spirits.
Correct.
I remember one time Vicky and I were in a hotel in Scotland, and it was kind of miserable weather out, and we thought, well, let's go down to the bar and have a drink. They put 25 mils of gin into the bottom of the glass. She's looking at the
Yeah.
guy and saying, excuse me, I asked for a gin and tonic, not a tonic and gin. and he goes, well, that's a measure. And it was like a sort of tablespoon, you know.
Yeah.
And here they just put the ice in the glass and count about 10 while they're pouring. Yeah.
Yeah. That's why the taxis are very busy in Lecala to
Yeah.
get home with taxis. But it has to be said, Bill, we're very fortunate in the restaurants, the quality of the restaurants. There must be well over 50 really top class restaurants
Yeah.
in Lecala, and they're not expensive, but the food is absolutely superb.
Yeah.
Really are spoilt for choice.
And well, that's absolutely true. And then on top of that, you've got places that call themselves cafes, but not a cafe as we would necessarily think of in Scotland. You know, they have very good menus. They serve great breakfasts. They have nice wines.
Right.
They'll usually serve very good lunch menus as well. So we've got real restaurants and these cafes. And sometimes I would think they're more aptly described as gastrobars
Sure.
because, you know, the quality of the food you're getting in there is really quite exceptional, isn't it?
Very good, really good.
Yeah.
I think you can't go very far, Bill, without coming across a decent restaurant or a decent place to have a snack or a drink or whatever, you know, and that's the beauty.
Yeah, it's great for the customers. I think when the winter time comes, oh Andy, it's a bit more of a struggle then, isn't it, for the number of businesses that are trying to basically
Yeah,
keep their heads above water.
they have to make their money in the summer months, but it's great to stay open for us people that are currently here.
Sure.
You know, when the holidaymakers are here, they really are buzzing.
Yeah.
But I suppose they depend on the people that are currently here over the winter months. So we try and go out as much as possible to support them.
I've noticed that, Andy. I've noticed you in a different bar or cafe or restaurant every day, and I
Yeah,
have to say you're very supportive of the local businesses.
yeah, we like to. Plus, we like the drink as well, of course.
But of course,
Actually, it's not just drink. Sometimes you get the best coffee anywhere in the world here.
really. Wow.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. You were talking about the summer and the businesses having to really try to, you know, make their money during the summer. What's your impression been of this summer? This is the first in a couple of years that's been, can I use the word normal?
Yeah.
How has it seemed to you in terms of the number of people down here?
Oh yeah, it's back to where it was before pre-COVID,
Right.
definitely. Just June, July, and now August, you can see the numbers are here, which is great for the businesses
Yeah.
because they've suffered badly
Yeah,
over the
sure.
COVID period. They really did. Tragic. Goodness knows how my business would have survived, or any business under these circumstances. So it's
Yeah.
great to see the majority of them have survived, and good to see them getting back to where they were.
Yeah, and you know, talking to a lot of particularly bar restaurant owners, I think one of the reasons some of them survived was that they had very um, level-headed landlords, shall we say.
Yeah,
You know, some of the landlords, some have been absolute stubborn and say, no, 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 there's no discount, there's no discount. We're talking during this period where, you know, things were tough and there were fewer visitors or there were limitations in hours and all this sort of stuff. But a lot that have survived, it was because the landlord says, well, look, okay, we've got a mortgage on this place, but we also know that if you've not got money coming in, you know, you can't pay us, and so they've negotiated something that's allowed them to sort of keep on their feet
makes
and
a lot of
during
sense.
that
Yeah.
period. Yeah, but sometimes there's not a lot of common sense around, Andy.
No, you're right. It's true. But however, that's. But no, it's good to see it back. You know, okay, it's not quite suitable for us because we could go into a restaurant in the winter and just sit down. Now you have
Right.
to book a week in advance. But I don't mind that because, you know, I can relate to business. And
Yeah.
it's great to see them all being really successful just now.
Yeah, and when we're down in the village in particular in the evenings, that's when you really notice because during the day, a lot of people are, you know, down at the beach and eating sandwiches and things. But when it comes evening times, when you really notice it, isn't it?
Yep.
Well, interestingly, Bill, we walk into La Cala from where we live and we go past probably about 5 or 6 chiringuitos,
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
and they're all full and really busy in
Yeah,
lunchtime.
and
It's
for
great,
those that don't know, can you explain what a chiringuito is, Yvonne?
certainly. It's on the beach and it's a restaurant, beach restaurant. They serve a huge variety of menus. They all have different menus. Some specialize in certain types of fish. Certain times of year, the sardines are great. Um, right on the beach, they normally have beds in front of them for customers. Obviously, you pay for access to the beds,
Yeah,
and it's just a very good atmosphere.
yeah,
You just, people coming off the beach don't have to get changed. They can just cover up and come off the beach and go and have something to eat and
yeah.
drink and go back to the beach.
But
They're great.
it is quite nice when they cover up, isn't it?
Yes, I would prefer people to cover up when they come off the beach, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, people might not realize this, but actually, certainly in Mijas, I think this is municipality by municipality, but it isn't legal, and you can be fined for wandering about and going into businesses wearing beachwear.
I know, and I wish sometimes they would follow that through.
I know, I know. But my only concern about it is that, you know, I know that these are the rules, but there's no signs up saying this anywhere. And I would hate to see tourists getting fined for
Yeah.
walking down the road in their skimpies if they don't know that they're not allowed to, you know?
Well, that's true. If you don't know, then you don't know you're doing something incorrect. So
Yeah.
it makes sense.
But you know, elderly fat guys in Speedos is not what you want to really see in the supermarket, is it?
No, that's why I had to stop wearing mine.
Yeah. Do you just go
I was
naked now, Andy?
I was lying on the beach one day, and this boat came very close to me. It was the Greenpeace boat trying to rescue me. I thought that's enough of lying on the beach.
I hope you see what I mean by telling a story with like a straight voice and straight face. And you have to wait till the punchline to see whether or not he's being serious or not. Have you got used to that, Yvonne?
Yes, I am, Bill. What happens is I actually know when it's going to be a story because you can tell by his voice as well.
Ah, right. Okay. Okay. So,
Sometimes I have to be careful not to give away that it's a story if we're socializing and he's launching into a story, and I think, oh,
so
so I have to stay quite straight faced.
he's got a tail then, has he?
always.
Okay, in a couple of minutes, or a minute or so, we're going to take a break. But Andy, you have a dark secret, and I want to know how a former chairman of the Institute of Directors in Fife has a pseudonym of Waddington Minge, the failed actor from Mull. So when we come back after the break, there has to be a story here. And you know, I put this on the poster, and I'm not the only one who knows about Waddington Minge. So,
You maybe better put a warning sign on for the second half, Bill, about a late true story.
No, but we're not after the 9 o'clock watershed, are we? Never mind about that. We've got Dave here in charge. He doesn't mind these things. Dave, let's take a little break, and we're going to listen to some Frankie Valli, the Jersey Boys.
Good.
Brilliant.
Welcome back. I'm Bill Anderson. I'm coming live from the Costa del Sol with my guest today, we're almost neighbours, really, because we don't live that far away. Yvonne Gray and Andy Thomson. Now, Andy, you have to tell us the biography of Waddington Minge. How on earth did this come about?
It goes way back. It's my weird sense of humour. I think what was the Goon Show? They had I'm sure they had a guy, Waddington Minge was one of the names they made up, and I thought that was really funny. So when people wherever say, "What's your name?" I would say, "Waddington Minge, failed actor from Mull." And it just broke. It was an icebreaker in the right times, and maybe not the right times, but
Yeah.
it didn't bother me at my age. You know, who gives it anyway? We used to go through to the Edinburgh Festival every year. We get
Right.
the train from Ladybank, and it was an hour's in the train and Edinburgh was fantastic in the festival. You probably have been there yourself, Bill. The atmosphere is fantastic. There'll be over 100 venues going on with all kinds of entertainment, all simultaneously. Anyway, we saw one that had. You're laughing.
Keep going. Sorry, I was reading something.
Yes.
We were. We were. We were. We were.
You were at the Fringe in Edinburgh, yeah?
Yes, right. Before I was so rudely interrupted. Anyway, we were there, and we took tickets for a few things. We saw Jim Davidson, the comedian, who was brilliant. But this one was 5 new comedians who had their own show in the evening, and they had 10 minutes to show their wares or listen to them and see if you wanted to go to the show at night. So we say, we'll go and see that. So 5 comedians. So we were late getting there. We're in the front row, which is their own place to be with comedians.
Yeah.
The first guy came on, and he was a bit aggressive. He was obviously trying to get audience participation, asking the guy, "What do you do?" and he was really making fun of them, which is what they're about. But he was a bit aggressive and whatever. So anyway, he came to me and said, "What's your name?" I said, "My name's Waddington Minge." And he said to Yvonne, "Is that his real name?" She said, "Yes, Waddington Minge." "Well, what do you do?" I said, "I'm a failed prostitute from Mull." Oh, so he walked on. He just couldn't went on. So anyway, he couldn't help himself. He had to come back. So he did a few people. He was a bit. I think he was a bit over the top with his, personal questions. Anyway,
too over enthusiastic, yeah.
He came back to me and said, "What did you just say you were a failed prostitute from Mull? How can you be a failed prostitute?" I said, "Well, at the time I had the Duke of Argyle's." And I said, "If you want me to translate, that's piles. Therefore, I was a failed prostitute from Mull."
But the sad thing is, Bill, that he got more laughs than the comedian.
I was going to get thrown out.
But they'll let you stay, did they?
Well,
Yes.
yeah, the theatre manager actually came over and said, "Look, if you keep answering questions, we're going to ask you to leave." And I said, "But can you tell him to stop asking him questions, because he's going to answer them if he asks them."
Yeah, and every answer is going to be more outrageous than the last one, yeah.
Correct.
Okay. But it's surprising how many people know this story, or at least know the outcome of this story, Andy. Now, listen, you've been here 10, 11 years, you said, coming up for 11 years.
Yeah.
Um, how do you feel you've kind of adapted to life in this part of Spain? Would you say that you're fairly integrated into the sort of overall Spanish society, or how have things been for you guys?
I think when you first arrive, Bill, it's quite difficult, especially if you don't speak any Spanish at all.
Right.
However, on the Costa del Sol, everybody wants to speak English to you,
Sure.
which I'm learning at my cost because I'm desperately trying to improve my Spanish.
Right.
And I speak in Spanish and everybody answers me back in English.
Right.
So, but it's, I don't know, what do you think?
Yeah, when we came here at first, we were pretty naive. We didn't know much about it, and it took a while to get up to speed. But now, we've got a lot of friends, and we're getting friends coming to stay as well in the UK that are wanting to stay permanently, so we can talk them through all the problems that we had and do a
Yeah.
short way in then for all the knowledge. But yeah, it took a while to get up to speed. But the only thing is, we probably don't have a lot of Spanish friends because it's mostly expats in this
Right.
area.
Right.
But it's still a great atmosphere, this village kind of environment. It's really nice.
Yeah, it isn't hard. Sorry, it is hard. It isn't easy. I think for a lot of let's just say expats. There's a lot of nationalities in Micas,
Sure.
but to integrate into the Spanish community, which actually is probably the old original families and their extended families from
Yeah.
La Cala. And it isn't hard to break in. Sorry, I keep saying it isn't hard. It isn't easy to break into that, is it? And I guess language is one thing.
Correct.
I think it's also the fact that because you're not comfortable using the Spanish, now I will actually talk in Spanish to people. But
Yeah,
at first, I was like, oh, I'm getting this tense wrong. I'm doing this wrong. So you start doubting that you can actually speak. So you tend to say nothing and just nod and smile.
yeah. But
Um,
you have actually done something else, though, Yvonne, haven't you? You've set up a Facebook page called "We Are La Cala de Mijas."
yes.
And I think it's a great name because sometimes, although local authorities talk about everything being inclusive, we're still the foreigners. You can't use language that's not inclusive about a lot of sectors of the community, but it's still okay to say "and the foreigners." But I think that that's actually a really nice idea for this page. We are La Cala de Mijas because, I've lived here 20 years. It's a third of my life. And I don't want to be the foreigner forever.
No,
What's your page about?
no. We are like Alda de Mijas. John Sharples and myself set it up because at the time we weren't, we felt that everybody wasn't getting to know what was going on,
Mm,
what was happening, because it is quite difficult to collect everything from different sources
it is.
to then get the message across about what's happening. People would come across things by accident and then think, oh,
I
if
didn't
I'd
know.
known it was on, I would have gone
Yeah,
last time, type of thing. And what we try and do is the membership at the minute, I think, sitting at 17,000,
right.
rough approximately. And people can post events, they can post feedback about things. We go into the tourist office every week to see if there's anything happening that we don't know about,
Right.
so we can put that on. People like yourself obviously post things onto the site to say this is what's happening.
Sure.
um, Alan is another one who posts a lot onto the site. Alan Boardman, he
Yeah,
does a
sure.
lot of information for us. And it is just generally trying to give about as much information across to everybody, not just who lives here, but also visitors, as to
Sure.
what's happening. You know, people ask things like, what time are the buses
Right.
to Marbella or wherever? And someone else will answer them. We don't have to answer. Someone else will go, take the 220 or the 320 under the bridge
Yeah, yeah.
every. Great.
Yeah, and it is nice to know about events that are coming up before they happen, rather than reading about them on people's Facebook pages. And so I didn't know anything about
Yeah.
that.
I
Yeah.
kind of relate Licala to being like a really upmarket holiday camp where everybody everybody seems to be on holiday. It makes you the majority of expats here are all retired.
Right.
So they have plenty of spare time, whether it be voluntary work or they want to be entertained, or the amount of clubs or sports or anything you can join here, it's endless.
Yeah.
You know, you could never be bored here. It's really like a really glorified holiday camp. And
Yeah.
with the page, it lets people know more things that are on, and they might want to go there and get involved in it or join a club or whatever. There's a plethora of things to join.
Yeah,
Amazing.
or they want to go out for dinner one evening and they want somewhere with live entertainment and
Sure.
yeah, I mean you could phone around places, but that's a lot of work. But if these things are advertised in one central place, then
Yeah.
they've kind of got their pick, haven't they, of places that they
Yeah.
can go to.
And it's a free advert as well if you're trying to do things like that. You know, it's people.
Absolutely.
It's good.
I think it's also good for the businesses, Bill, because they also get their business advertised,
Right.
and they can say, got an event on. They can say we're doing a special deal or whatever, and that seems to go down quite well with all the people who use the page.
Yeah.
There's always lots of feedback.
Yeah. So, a couple of things. Getting into the Spanish way of doing things, right? One of the things that I've noticed some Brits struggle with is the Spanish custom of eating things with your fingers. It's sort of a case of if you can pick it up with your fingers, you eat it with your fingers. How have you guys got on with that one? You okay with it?
From my point of view, Bill, because I've lived in Antigua and bits of Africa and things, it's not an issue. And
Right.
Asia, eating with my fingers is not an issue. And sharing plates is not an issue, which is, for me, tapas is great
Yeah, sure.
because you get to choose every, tiny bits of everything.
Yeah, you get
I'm not
two
sure
or three
about you.
plates on the table and people just help themselves.
Back in Scotland in the hard days, Bill, you were eating your fingers in these days. Never mind. No, it doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother me.
Well, listen, it's terribly naughty of me, but I've been in restaurants sometimes and people order maybe something like barbecue ribs, and they try to eat barbecue ribs with a knife and fork. So you're okay with ribs, yeah? Fingers.
Ribs, I eat ribs quite a lot, Bill. So my thing is slice it off and get it in your hand and eat it
Yeah.
and enjoy it.
David's just saying that just make sure you're not picking your nose while you're doing that, you know? Okay, what about this one? Prawns. Prawns in their shell. Are you good with your fingers with that?
The only way to eat a prawn in its shell is with your fingers, Bill.
Uh-huh.
I defy anybody, and I've watched people try and do it with a knife and fork, and they end up with the prawn going one way and the shell going the much easier with fingers.
Yeah, well, listen, I have some Chinese friends who couldn't understand why Brits couldn't peel a prawn inside their mouth. So, and they go just like this. So they take the head off, obviously, because there's spiky
Yeah.
bits at the end of the head, and they just put it in. There's a bit of munching and tongue waggling going on in there, and out comes the shell in one piece, and the prawn's gone. But yeah, people do try to eat prawns
Now,
in the
Bill,
shell.
here's a question for you, Bill.
Yeah.
When you get fish and chips out of the big fish, how would you eat it?
Well, I have to be honest. I tend to go for my fingers for the chips, and while the fish is hot, um, I'll eat it with a knife and fork. But then I'll cut it up and eat it with my fingers. I'm a eat it with your fingers man. Yeah.
Yeah, the only way to do it, especially with carry out.
Yeah, if you have a carry out, well, I mean, it's traditional, isn't it? I
Correct.
mean, who eats a sort of takeaway fish and chips with a knife and fork? You know?
Mind you, the chips and haggis, you've got to strangle it first before you eat it.
I have a story about that, but I think that'll be for another time, Andy. And the punchline of this story is I'll pass on the black pudding, but you need to keep you need to remind me about that one. I'll tell you. Okay, right. Have you gone real Spanish with the prawns? Do you suck the juice out the head of the prawns when you break it off?
Yes, I always have, Bill,
You never told me that.
because I used to in Malaysia. You do exactly the same thing.
Oh, do they? Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I wish you'd told me that before we got married.
Before she kissed you. What about you, Andy? Do you suck the juice out the prawn's head before you throw it
I'm not
away?
a fancy. I'm a tatties and mince man, Bill. You know, I'm a very plain eater. Put a big bit of steak down there, that'll do for me, or mince or something like that. You know, all these. I like fish, but some of these things I don't think should be eaten. You sometimes find them up the sewer pipe, which worries me.
Yeah, but what about the callos, which is the Spanish version of the old Scottish tripe? Do you like it?
No,
No?
can't go the tripe. Can't go the tripe.
No, for me, tripe. No, I've tried different ways. I've had it here in Spain. I've eaten it in France. Well, I haven't eaten it because I don't like it, but no, definitely no to tripe.
And I also had a guy that I knew a farmer in Scotland, and he kept sheep. And sometimes it was just getting dark, and we'd be going up the lane to meet him for a pint, and his name was Michael. And all you heard from the field was, Michael, I'm here. And I thought, I'm never going to eat a bit of lamb again.
Oh, Andy, I think you're hitting the bottom of the barrel with that one. So snails,
Snails for me, any day. I love them.
you love them.
Yeah.
Not for me.
Not even if they're made up into mince and tatties.
It would have to be really better, really well disguised.
No. Okay. And any other? Oh, what about the traditional jamon serrano, which is the cured hams? Are you into that?
I love them, Bill, and I really do enjoy it. Unfortunately, again,
No, the only way to eat ham is when it's roasted, properly cooked, not raw. Some of these things you see where they take cuts, it's still got a pulse. Oh no, 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 no.
But you see, I'm like that with the way my meat's cooked, Andy. You know, if I have a steak, I like it well done.
Yeah.
And I always say that I wouldn't eat anything that a good vet could bring back to life.
So, that's
you
right.
see, I like mine on the hoof.
Yeah.
On the hoof. Oh. So
So,
are you a well done man, Leanne? Man,
Yes,
Andy.
well done. Oh yes. Oh no, if I see something pulsating or it's keeping moving, it needs to be killed first.
So is there any typical Spanish things that you do like, Andy?
I like paella, yeah, and I do like all the Spanish restaurants here that I do like their food. Maybe because it's La Cala and we're in the tourist area, they've kind of weaned themselves over to the British type menu. But no,
I do think, Bill, since we've been here for the length of time, that Andy's changed what he eats.
All
Yeah,
right,
we-
okay.
When he first arrived, he was like, "Oh, I can't eat that." Now he'll actually do it. He'll eat it. So
Right.
I think over time you get, if you're not used to
Mhm.
different foods and flavors, I think it takes time to get to that point.
it's still good, Bill. They've got a lot of great Indian restaurants here, like the Indian food.
You like your Indian food, okay.
Yeah.
Do they do mince and tatties in the Indians?
They do curried mince, and that's about the curried tatties.
So, guys, do you see this as being home for yourselves now after 11
without
years?
doubt. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, this is home.
Oh, yeah. I'll be carried out my box here. No question.
Right. Could you ever imagine moving back to the UK?
Not now.
No,
I think that would be my worst nightmare.
really.
It would be like being in a nightmare. No.
this is the nearest we'll probably get to paradise.
Well, that's
Because
a very nice thing to
although
say.
I've never heard gates opening, but I can hear a trap door now and again opening. So this will be my paradise.
Listen, if it's the gates that were opening, you probably wouldn't know anybody there, Andy. You know, but you got a lot more friends through the trapdoor, probably. Listen, Yvonne, Andy, thank you so much for joining me this afternoon. It's been fun. I think there's a lot of people going to be listening to us today, and also for the podcast which we'll put together. Thank you very much for joining me, and we'll catch up very soon.
Yeah, great to see you, Bill.
Thank you so much, Bill,
You're
for
very
inviting me.
welcome.
Great afternoon.
Just very quickly, if you like these shows and you want to catch up with podcasts, if you look on YouTube at Bill Anderson Mijas, that's Mijas, you'll see a lot of podcasts from Expat Radio, which you can listen to while you're doing the cooking or the ironing or whatever you can listen to while doing something else. Dave, thank you very much. Have a great weekend, everyone, and we'll be back
Bye.
next week.